Why no one wants Baizhu? When he was released, he was cast aside as a unit that no one needs. His sales tanked. But why? To find out exactly what went down, I spent many days researching what happened since his release 6 months ago. But during my investigation, I realized that Baizhu is way more impactful than people give him credit for. Let's get into it. Baizhu, as we all know, is a doctor, and to nobody's surprise, a dendro healer. He also has some buffing mechanics with his A4, which is pretty solid, and his burst also provides a shield. So, a pretty great mitigation unit, yes? It's true, but that didn't help him. Baizhu was released shortly after another dendro healer, Yao Yao. She's a solid 4-star, and good in quite a few teams. Everyone was satisfied with her. Unfortunately, this led to the majority of players underrating Baizhu by a lot. We have a dendro healer already, so why do we need another one, was the common mindset at that time. It didn't help that Baiju's banner came after Nihida's first rerun. Not only this, but it was Nilou's first rerun as well. The poor dude also got paired alongside our precious Coco Goat. Honkai's star rail also came out a day after Baiju's banner, essentially sacrificing his banner sales.
Looking at Baizu's day 10 chart sales, it's depressingly low. Despite him being paired with a fairly popular character Ganyu for her rerun, this is the 6th lowest banner at this point.
Everyone sold their homes to Sela instead of Baizhu. Fair enough, Sela's a cutie. Some will say it's dense marketing on Hoyo vs. End. Plus, it didn't help that Baizhu seemed to have no depth either. You only need to build him pure HP, have his burst up, and then have him heal your whole party. And voila, you're done. They regarded him as a pure luxury unit. Case closed. With these things going down at that time, his banner sales went down the toilet. Dang. Something that a lot of players don't know right now is that Baizhu is the second best dendro support in the game. Yes, Nihida reigns supreme, but the comfort he adds in certain comps is incredible. If you have Baizhu, you can actually get away with not owning Nihida. Players overrated Yao Yao a lot. She's free to play friendly, so that's all that matters, right? Not exactly. First off, let's clear something up.
Overall, I'd probably put him as about as good as Yao Yao, maybe a little bit less valuable overall.
Baizhu and Yao Yao are not on the same level. It's hardly close at all. Yao Yao is a wonderful healer, but that's all she does, heal. And she also needs to be on field for her burst to do the majority of its healing. Baizhu heals your active character when his burst is up, and he provides them with a shield to prevent interruption. On top, he also adds a strong buff. Not to mention the excellent 14-second duration of his heal. Meanwhile, Yao Yao's healing only lasts for 5 seconds. Now, Yao Yao is still a very good character, but saying she's on the same level as Baizhu is ridiculous. So, Baizhu is actually better than people thought, but he also aged well. Even at the time when he came out, he had already fixed a character with glaring flaws upon release. Yep, that's right, Sino. His burst duration is so long that no dendro support could keep up with his full burst duration. Not even the Radish could solve this. When Sino kills his foes too fast, you have to switch out of his burst to reapply Nihida's marks. And then you sit there with Sino not having enough energy, and most likely his burst still being on cooldown. But surprise! Baizhu came to the rescue and solved it. His shield is competent in keeping up with Sino's long burst duration, and the Electro Doggo loves the damage mitigation. And the fact he won't get knocked over anymore. But people took this as Baizhu only being a good pull if you're a Sino main. I mean, yes, if you're a Sino main, I say go for Baizhu. But he is also excellent in many other comps as well. A great healer slot in for Nilou Bloom, being able to replace Kokomi if you don't have her. A solid mitigation slot for Hyper Bloom teams if you're not using Kuki. And a pretty good aggravate slot in for more comfort. Plus, these teams cash in a nice profit from his A4. Things have only improved for Baizhu over time, and now we're in the Fontainian era, and healers are more valuable than they have ever been. Healers have always been a core part of teams, but units from Fontaine all have a trend of featuring HP loss mechanics. We can assume when Farina comes out that she'll work with HP loss mechanics too. And so will other future Fontaine units as well. Think of it how most Sumeru units are EM based, or how most Inazuman units are energy based. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, why not consider liking and subscribing? And while you're at it, leave a cool comment down below. If you do, then Baizhu will prescribe you some delicious chalky milk. Also, follow me on my Twitch where I stream every Wednesday at 8 PM UK time and Saturday 3 PM UK time. Moving on. The main reason players underrate Baizhu so much is that they think he's not necessary. Yes, YaoYao did propagate this a bit, but the character's kit on its own is also in part responsible. Now sure, you don't need Baizhu, but let's be real, there aren't many units that you can consider an absolute must-pull. I agree, you only get him when you've got the core units you want to build your team, and there are substitutes for him. But remember, this is because of what we have right now. There's a good chance his value will skyrocket when Farina rolls around. This guy has excellent role consolidation. When you pull for Baizhu, you're getting more than a simple healer. He offers more qualities. Not to mention you can also put Baizhu on R5 filling tails, and make use of the HP it provides, while also being able to give a very strong buff to your team. And he has a pet snake, which is very, very cool. Baizhu is very cheap to get going. His main drawback is ER. He needs a chunky amount as a solo Dendro to be consistent in bursting off cooldown. But once that's sorted out, you have quite an intuitive and simple kit to deal with. But back to his cheapness, you only need to build him on HP percent and DR, which makes him simple to build, and you get those stats with ease. And 4 weapons, much like Kokomi's donut. His signature sucks! Jade Full Splendor's damage bonus is useless on Baizhu. He doesn't provide any of his own damage to the team unless you want him on 4-piece clam, and that set is unaffected by the weapon. So your next best bets, the craftable prototype Amber and the next to free Frilling Tails are both powerful, super cheap options. He also doesn't need much time investment to make him battle ready. This is pretty common with healers. Not only this, but he has an absolute 0 barrier to entry. Very easy gameplay. You only press E, then Q, and profit. The next downside you could think of with Baizhu is that he doesn't have a clear path for vertical investment, which means you cannot upgrade him in meaningful ways once you build him. His cons are quite mediocre, and his 5-star weapon is atrocious. But this isn't actually a problem, only a completely wrong way to look at it. You don't look to upgrade Baizhu to make your team stronger. Baizhu is the upgrade to your teams. This dude is an entire act of vertical investment. You're pulling Baizhu to upgrade your Sino teams or any other Dendro team of yours, or your future Farina teams. And with that being said, is Baizhu worth it when we have such a vast array of other healer units to choose from? Well, I would argue that Baizhu is actually on the same level as Kokomi and Zhongli, if not a little better than Zhongli. Kokomi and Baizhu are both healers, who are the most useful within Dendro teams, but for completely different reasons. With Kokomi being able to apply Hydro for starters, you can play both well in Bloom teams. But the fish ain't as insane in Sino teams, and Baizhu is generally stronger across way more Dendro teams. This makes sense, as he's built for that role with his A4, while Kokomi is more versatile in general. Zhongli has a comfy, universal 20% res shred which allows him to be very versatile. He can play in many teams and is particularly strong in Hutao and Ito-Geo teams. The old man's a jack of all trades, and is a pretty nice flex pick for many comps. But if you're a skilled enough player, you don't need the elderly lizard much. You can usually replace him with a more offensive option and get more DPS out of your team. For example, replacing Zhongli with Kazuha in a double Hydro team. Something that all 3 of these units have in common is none of them are necessary. But they give you a very comfortable experience, and in some cases, some extra damage for your team. So if you think Baiju's irrelevant, then you're calling Kokomi and Zhongli irrelevant too. You can justify Baizhu over those two if you have a specific interest in Dendro teams. This is where he shines best, and it shows. He also works well alongside other Dendro units to lower his ER requirements. And if you don't have Nahida, get Baizhu then! You can pull for him to your heart's content if you want to try Dendro comps but don't have her. Nahida may be the highest damaging option in many teams, but is she the most comfy? So, is Baizhu that underrated? He is, and by a great deal at that. His sales are dirt low for being a character on par with Kokomi and Zhongli, and that even though he offers some amazing role consolidation to a bunch of teams. He's aged pretty well, and I predict he's going to become a lot more valuable once Farina rolls around. If you skip Baizhu on his first run, then consider picking him up next time. He'll be a comfy addition to your account. Well then, this has been Juice, signing out. And remember, a Prima Gem a day keeps the 50-50 away.